I don't know about you, but if West Ham have to go and spend some money in a transfer window, and I know they're going to be bringing a couple of players in, I tend to get quite excited about it because I sort of wonder who we're going to be bringing in, and then I start thinking about the rest of the season or the season ahead and what we can achieve. But I don't feel that this time round with January. I've got to be honest. I'm actually quite anxious about it because I think I've just lost quite a bit of faith in West Ham in terms of how we do business and the players that we're going to bring in. I'm quite worried that we're targeting the wrong players. I just don't know who we're going to be getting in because it does feel like a bit of a mismatch when you consider the summer we've just had. Don't get me wrong, we brought players in, high quality players in certain positions, but you can kind of see already that it's a bit puzzling when it comes to sort of players that we target. And then you wonder what the system actually is, because this season just feels like a bit of a mismatch, doesn't it, with certain players? And it's making me a little bit anxious, I'm going to be honest, because West Ham actually now under quite a bit of pressure going into the January transfer window, because we do have to do a fair bit of business. And it's not just players coming in, it's players going out, because players going out is going to aid us bringing players to the club. So that makes me even more worried, to be honest, because we've now got to rely on West Ham not only going to go out and get the right players to help us kick on a little bit this season, or, well, try and stay in the league, I think, for the first part. But we've also got to get rid of players, which, again, typically West Ham, again, usually very bad at. We're not good at selling players. I mean, we just said the summer, haven't we? We can't ship players out. We have to loan them out. We can't sell. It's just, it always feels like a bit of a shambles whenever we're trying to get players off our books and make money on them. We're just not very good at it. And we're going to need to be good at it. And that is quite a worrying thought, to be honest. Before going to the video, though, if you're new to the channel, do subscribe. It's free to do so. It takes 2 seconds. It really does help us grow and build. And, of course, if you could hit that like button, we really do appreciate it. Now, before I also go on to the video, I want to make a special mention to Oscar Fares, West Ham under 15 goalkeeper, who sadly died recently. And it's horrendous news. It really is terribly terribly sad. Obviously it's rocked the football club and the football world, really. It's awful. Highly talented goalkeeper for the club, and it's just horrendously sad. And thoughts, of course, with his family and friends at this really, really sad time. So terrible news. So obviously I just want to make a special mention to Oscar, because it was devastating news. And I just want to make sure that we mention that. And of course we've made mention of it on our website, etc. And it's just it puts things into perspective, of course, and what's really important. So I just want to make sure that Oscar's friends and family know that our thoughts are with them at this terribly sad time. Yes, onto the transfer window. I'm worried about it. I'm feeling very anxious, I'm going to be honest, because there's a fair bit to do for West Ham. Let's get it straight. We've got players that want to go. We've got players that are ruled out for the rest of the season and beyond. And so the club are in desperate need to sort things out. And we already know that our finances are very restricted. Now, it's not to say West Ham haven't got money. It's not as if we are in dire straits financially as a football club. We're not. But the PSR ruling means that we do have to sell players to be able to go and spend. And this is what makes me a little bit worried. So let's first of all think about the players that we need to get rid of first to bring some funds in. Now, the number one, as we understand, this has come from XWHU employee, by the way. The number one the club are targeting to sell in January is Naya Fagerd. Now, of course, Naya Fagerd's actually on loan at the moment, Real Sociedad, and he is doing very well, apparently doing very, very well out there. Seems to have settled well into the side, including the fact that Real Madrid are understood to be interested in the player. Now, that to me is kind of the one, and I do get that is the one we do need to make happen. But West Ham are going to be looking for around about the £50 million mark, I believe, is that sort of £40-50 million mark. I mean, that's a hell of a lot to ask mid-season. It's going to be quite tough, I think. I think the only angle West Ham might be able to go down is to try and do a deal with Sociedad and say, look, you can have him now, but we're to strike a deal. It's going to be very, very difficult for the club to sort out. And we're going to be looking to target that to try and get something over the line to enable us to go and spend. Another one that's going to be tricky is Nicholas Füllkrug. Now, the problem is with Füllkrug, of course, because of the injury to Antonio, the club obviously are going to lose the appetite to sell Füllkrug now. I'm probably going to say to him, well, look, you're going to have to stay for the rest of the season. That's a big risk in itself, because then you're then asking someone that wants to go, has made it very clear they want to leave, not happy in London, not settled, to tell them to stay longer. And that is, not good for anyone, because we don't want a player around the club that's going to be very unhappy. The only thing that when I've given it more thought is that it's been made very clear from lots of people, not just Tim Steidten, but others, is that Fulkrug apparently is an utmost professional. He does want to do well and will do his job regardless. So I do like to think that if we aren't able to get rid in January, he will get his head down and work hard for the rest of the season for us then to sell in the summer. And another one we've got to look to sell is Rodriguez, of course, hasn't settled as well, wants to return to Spain. That's not going to be easy. I know he was on a free, so it's not as if we have to recoup lots of money on him, but it's going to be quite difficult with his age and stuff. I don't think you're going to get much for him. You're talking, £5 million mark, probably something like that. He's not going to be commanding a big fee. So West Ham are under a bit of pressure here. Now, there's rumours circulating a little bit in regards to Mohamed Kudus. Whether West Ham would sell in January. I kind of understand it, because you kind of think, well, if West Ham are able to do a deal in January, then you bring in big money, and then it kind of sorts us out, and then we can then go and do the business. But I mean, by the way, I just want to say, West Ham, the idea of West Ham having to bring players in quickly over a few weeks period of January worries me as well, because we're not good at all of this. It takes a long, long time, and I am really concerned. I don't think that we would sell, by the way, Kudus mid-season. I don't think we'd do that. I think that it would just be such a terrible move in terms of the mood of the club. I mean, what message is that sending if you're selling one of your best assets and biggest players mid-season in a dire season as well? Let's be honest. So I really don't think it'd be wise for the club in terms of the fan base. It would not send the right message. I think it plans to be really unhappy to see that happen. So I doubt that's going to happen. I think that West Ham are going to look at the Gerd one and possibly look at Fulkrug if they have to, and Rodriguez I think possibly will go as well. But it's a really tricky window heading for West Ham and how we go about our business, because it's a lot to do with very little time to do it. And we don't even really know who the manager's going to be at this stage. I doubt it's going to be Lopetegui. But if you're getting a new guy in, if it's Graham Potter, he's going to have his ideas of who he's going to want. This is a real troublesome time. And I'm as I say, I usually going into a transfer window knowing West Ham have got to do a bit of business. I tend to be a bit excited, but I'm actually finding it quite nerve-wracking actually going into this. I don't feel confident and don't feel comfortable that the club know what they're doing. We've already talked, looking at reports, West Ham were targeting Callum Wilson. I mean, Callum Wilson, how old's he? Injury-prone Premier League striker. Haven't we got enough of them at this football club? I'm not. If that is genuinely the kind of level of targets we're looking at, then that's really worrying. That's more concern than anything. That's not. That again is just another plaster dealing with a situation that's been created by this football club and its recruitment process, always just trying to patch things as quickly as possible rather than trying to build for the future. I understand January's a little bit like that, by the way. I do understand January's a little bit of a patch up to see you through to the end of the season. So I'm not expecting West Ham to go and spend £100 million and young and up and coming players. But I don't like the idea of Callum Wilson. I think it's a ridiculous target, considering the fact of his injury record. I mean, thankfully, I know it sounds horrible to say about a player getting injured, because I don't mean that in that regard. I'm glad he's injured, but he's injured. He's been ruled out for a couple of months already, so he's not going to be available. West Ham might sign him in January. But thank God, can you imagine if he hadn't gotten injured? I mean, imagine West Ham gone and got him. It wouldn't put it past the club at all. I really wouldn't put it past them to go and do something like that. So Callum Wilson's obviously off the list in terms of targets. We're going to have more of an update in terms of that and who the club are going to be going for. XWH employees about to provide an update on the January window, so that'll be coming out, and so that's going to be rumbling now really for the next few weeks over the course of the new year. But the concern is that I've got from X is the fact that we have to sell, that we have to go and raise funds. We are really bad at that. We have been bad at that for a long, long time, this football club. We are not good at selling players. I mean, go back to Dimitri Payet. Sold the guy for, what, 25 million quid? One of the best players in the world when we had him. Do you know what I mean? We sold him for peanuts because he told us what club he wanted to go to, and they didn't. It was insane. And you can go through, the list goes on how bad we are at offloading players. We sell them for next to nothing. We bring players in for a huge fee. Felipe Anderson, huge fee, bring them in, £40 million and get rid of them for nothing. We continually do it. And I fear that's going to happen again, because I feel like we're under pressure to sell because we have to get money in. So you can imagine we're going to go, look, knife for Gerd, you have him for 15 million. Oh, right, yeah, Fulkrug, have him back for 10. Do you know what I mean? We're just going to try our best to try and raise money. It's not a good business model at all. So although as a channel, right? I'm anticipating we're going to be very busy over January anyway, and so I'm geared up for it in that regard, and that does, in a way, it does excite me because I think, oh, we've got lots to talk about, but what I'm fearful of is how we're going to go about our business. I'm really when it comes to West Ham now, I'm worried about how we're going to go and do things, how we're going to be targeting, because we're such a reactive football club. We never seem to be proactive. We never seem to be thinking ahead too far. It's always very, very much in the now. We wait for disasters to happen, then we react. And that's what that Callum Wilson link felt to me. It was just like, we're going to go, I'll go with him. Do you know what I mean? There's no proper planning behind that. That is the typical West Ham. Who's available? Oh, has he got Premier League experience? Because we desperately need that. Bring him in. He'll do. I don't want that. I really hope that we are shrewd about our business and how we're going to go about it. I hope that if we are going to be having to sell players as we will have to, that these talks are already well ongoing. If you've got likes of Nyfagerd being sold to a club in Spain, whatever, then those talks are already well underway, so it can happen. You can hit the ground running in January. I doubt it. I doubt that we are that proactive. I doubt that we have got these sort of things happening in place. I'd like to think, I don't want to be too negative because Tim Steidten, although I have got my concerns, I will say his negotiation skills are very good. I do feel that he at times does. I mean, all right, we have certain things. Fulkrug one is not good. Let's get that straight. We overspent by a long way with regards to him. But overall, you look at the Tadibo deal, how he got the things like that over the line. He is very good, and he does tend to have plus points as well. Steidten. So I do want to try and lean on the side of optimism a little bit with this. I don't want to go into it too negatively this transfer window, but it's the fact we've got to do so much in such a short space of time. And I really hope that this club are ready and understand what's needed here, and I've got a plan in place, because bloody hell, we're going to need it. Because let's be honest, this season has been it's been dire, isn't it, so far? It really has been a slog. And it's dragging down the mood of everybody, and we need a lift. We need to see that this club is going to be proactive, and the signs at the moment aren't great, I've got to be honest, with the players that we're getting linked with. So I hope that changes. I hope that we're going to get some positive updates from X, and I can start putting them on the videos on here, and we can all start going into the new year with a bit of optimism, and we can start to turn a corner. But and I'm trying to avoid talking about Lopetegui in this video. He's been talked about enough. Obviously, my thoughts on him and where I sit with that guy and his future. I don't think it's going to be much longer. And I feel that would be a positive as well. So, look, I hope things do turn. But as I say, the fact that we've got this update from X now saying that there's a whole host of players the club are going to be listening to offers for and want to offload in January. Although that should excite me, it's got me more nervous than filled with optimism. Let's put it that way. Come on, your hands.